In other news, former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu inching closer and closer to a plea agreement regarding the 3 corruption trials in which he's involved. But what's in the deal, and will Bibi accept the terms? Here for the update, ILTV reporter Asaf Nissan. Asaf, thank you so much for joining us. Now, what are some of the developments that we've seen in the last 24, 48 hours?
So over the last 48 hours, specifically, actually, if we want to be more precise, so we say the 24 hours, ever since the deal came out and all the noise came around it, we've seen that last night, former Prime Minister Netanyahu and his family met at the house of Boaz Ben-Tzur, one of their lead counsels, in the decision whether or not to accept the potential plea deal. Now, as we see, Netanyahu's family is very against it. We hear Sal, of course, prominently, since she's also saying that she's not going to let a pencil pusher, in a word, decide the fate of her husband. She doesn't believe he's to blame. And the kids didn't say any personal opinions, but they're also pretty much against it. But on the other hand, we do see a lot of support coming from the lawyers themselves, telling him that especially his senior lawyers, Boaz Ben-Tzur, who also said this is one of the best deals he can get.
Is that, all right, I'll get to that question later, I guess. Who in fact will decide if Netanyahu then will take the deal? Is it really just Netanyahu? Is it up to him at the end of the day?
In the end of the day, it is up to Netanyahu because it's his life on the line. With all due respect to Sarah and Yair, who both have, predominantly a strong place in support in Netanyahu, Bibi himself is the one who has to decide in the end of the day. So I don't see anyone else who would be able to tell Mandelblit if and when they are agreeing to the plea deal.
All right. Was there an official request sent to Attorney General Mandelblik's office for this plea agreement? How did it initiate exactly? So it initiated pretty much with the fact we're seeing
Attorney General Mandelblit reaching the end of his term. And of course, one of the things he had throughout his tenure and led with is the Netanyahu trials. Now, taking those out is one of his most important things. He wants to take off the table. That's why he's talking about willing for an agreement. Now, we're not seeing anything coming from the Netanyahu side yet. No official plea deal, no requests, but we know it's been talked around. And of course, with the latest reports, we know that Netanyahu is thinking about it seriously.
Is this plea deal coming now to prevent a long, drawn-out court case? An embarrassment for the state, or is it because Netanyahu's attorneys believe that this is his best chance?
So it's a good question, and I would say probably more towards the fact they think this is the best option they can get. I don't see anything else because I don't think there's a reason to embarrass the state that much. I mean, Netanyahu fought for his innocence up to now, but now that he knows there's a potential deal that would also take out most of his charges, including the absolute annulment of Case 2000, which is by itself a big issue, that would probably be the reason they said, let's go for it.
All right, and so, could Mandelblit make this deal? And again, what about the moral turpitude issue? Because you mentioned, of course, Case 2000 being thrown out, but that's another big issue as far as Netanyahu is concerned.
So first of all, it's a good question because we do see AG Mandelblit does want to end this, does want to take off his plate and be the one who finalized the issue with Netanyahu. Now, will it happen? It's a good chance it won't because A, it's only 2 weeks left for his official term, and B, we're talking about an issue that even if he decides yes and says yes to, the entire people involved in it, which is around 20 people, have to sit and decide on each clause specifically. Now, the biggest talks, of course, are demoting the crimes on Case 4000 and 1000 to smaller misdemeanors. But one of the things we also know that the moral turpitude issue will not go away. I mean, we know Mandelblit does want to lead with this. And of course, we're hearing voices from opposition and coalition saying that this has to come in. This has to be part of the decision.
All right. Now, I think one of the biggest twists here is coming from former Knesset member and Channel 14 reporter Ynnon Magal, starting a crowdfunding on behalf of Netanyahu. You want to tell me a little bit more about that?
So basically, ever since he talked about the plea deal, Ynnon Magal decided to open up a crowdfunding, helping former Prime Minister Netanyahu actually aid in his legal expenses. Now, we know the campaign itself raised over 2.5 million shekels out of 5 million, which is amazing. We're talking
in a day.
We're talking literally in a day, half of the amount was already settled in. So that's amazing. By itself, it would be incredible. But there is around, of course, the question: does he need it? We're talking about someone whose current net worth is 15 million shekels. So are we actually giving here to the poor? Are we doing the reverse Robin Hood story and we're actually giving to the rich? This is like the different comments we've seen all over.
All right, well, it'll be interesting, I guess, to find out how all of this ends, if this deal even comes to fruition.
Of course.
Asaf, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
ILTV Plus, your news from Israel and more 24/7. Start your free trial today. Subscribe at iltv.tv and watch from any device.